Good afternoon. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Mary Grace, and this is Real Talk with Mary Grace. It is the 17th of November, 2021. We are live, and we've got a good show lined up today. So come on in, share this if you can, and invite your friends, tag your friends, share it into groups that you belong to on Facebook, Telegram, any other groups, chat groups that you belong to. That would be great if you could do that. And just wanted to welcome everybody in. Hello. Good to see you guys. Thank you for commenting during the live chat and also after the fact when you come and watch the replay. It really helps get the feed up in the stream. So as you're coming in, go ahead and share this. Looks like we're just getting kind of suppressed more and more every day. So please share out the content. It's important that people get the information, especially, because there's so much information coming. And one of the things that I do is kind of help you to process that. I give you my take on things and hopefully give you some encouragement along the way. I'm going to wait a few more minutes and see if people come in. Let's see, is there anybody in Facebook? Is there anybody coming in on CloudHub? As always, please, take part in the conversation and then also come back after the fact and leave comments in the chat, not in the chat, in the comment section so that people can see it. Okay. So hope everybody is doing well. Before I go any further, I want to announce that I am doing my show later tomorrow. I'm going to be live at 3 p.m. Eastern, and I am going to have a special guest on the show, and that is going to be Rachel Ham. If anyone here follows Rachel Ham, you already know just what an amazing person she is. If you have not followed Rachel and you're not familiar with what she does, I would highly encourage you to go to her channel, The Rachel Ham Show, on YouTube. Don't do it right now. Do it after we're done. And check out some of her content. She is running for Secretary of State in California, and among other things. And I'll give you more information about her tomorrow. But I met her in Tulsa at the first Clay Clark Reawaken America tour. And so Rachel's going to come on the show. We're going to chat for a little bit, and hopefully it'll be a great show for all of you. I'm sure we'll talk about a variety of things, not just politics. She is a really very strong, committed Christian, and we share that. We share a lot in common with our faith, and I'm very happy that I'm going to be able to have her on the show. 3:00 Eastern tomorrow. Mark your calendars and set a reminder so that you won't miss the show. And that way you'll be able to chat live as we do the show. I'm excited and I'm looking forward to it. It may go a little bit longer than an hour. We'll just see how things are going with the show. And yeah, very excited. That's tomorrow, the 18th of November, 2021. Now, before I forget, I think I mentioned this earlier. If people are planning to fly over the Thanksgiving weekend, Thanksgiving holiday, I'm almost certain that that there will be flight delays and even cancellations. I would just suggest that you plan that into your itinerary. You may need to go ahead and secure a rental car at the airport that you're flying back from, in case you don't make a flight and you need to drive home. I'm just saying, I would be prepared. I would be prepared for being stranded. I would bring extra food, because the airports that I've been in have had short staff, and a lot of the restaurants have been closed, and a lot of the shops have been closed. So we'll just see what happens, but be prepared. If you have medication that you travel with that you need to take, I would have that ready. I would have extra medication. Don't put it all in your checked luggage. Just things like that to think about. I definitely am not recommending that people don't travel. I'm just recommending that if you are going to fly, just be prepared for delays that may last more than a day. So think about that. All right, where are all my people? Where is everybody today? Okay, here's what I want to talk about today on the show. I want to talk about a little bit about the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Is everybody watching the live stream of the trial? Maybe that's where everybody is. I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with the CDC and OSHA. And let me just look at my notes here. And I want to talk. I want to share some inspiration with you, and we'll wrap up the show with that. So, okay, yeah, 21 watching. I think that's a record low, except when I was on Periscope when I first started doing my show. It's a little demoralizing. I got to be honest with you. So, yeah, if you can share it out, that would be awesome. Ever since I got deleted from Twitter, from my original Twitter account, it's just been, and because of the topics that I'm talking about, it's a challenge. So, share the show, retweet, whatever you do on YouTube, however you share on Facebook, do whatever it is that you can do to get this out. It used to be that when you share it into groups on Facebook, it would actually help. I don't know if that's helping anymore, but try it, because that's good. And then tag your friends. So, one of the things, hold on a second. One of the things that came out last night, the story broke that in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, the prosecution withheld a high resolution video of that would have been exculpatory in nature, for Kyle Rittenhouse. The video that was shown, that was given to the defense, was very low resolution, and the video that the prosecution had was very high resolution. And that just came out last night. Apparently, it was when the prosecution was talking about the video last week, I think on Friday, in their closing, they actually said, we have a higher resolution version. They actually mentioned that in passing, and so the defense for Kyle Rittenhouse has filed a motion for a mistrial, and so I wanted to talk about that a little bit. The thing that really stands out to me about that, first of all, I posted the high resolution video. In my Telegram. So if you're not following my Telegram, which is Mary Grace Media Official, I suggest that you go do that. Telegram is an app, and you can see that video. Now, I don't know if you guys remember the original video that I'm talking about, where it showed Rosenbaum, one of the guys that Kyle shot, chasing him, and in the video that I saw, it was like this crazy, blurry drone version. I mean, it looked like a bunch of paramecium bouncing around on a slide under a microscope that was out of focus. That's what it looked like to me. I mean, I was like, I have no idea who's who, where they are. And there was no annotation on it, so you couldn't really tell. I mean, there were people running in the front of the frame. There were people running in the back of the frame. I mean, it was like, okay. I mean, maybe if I were watching this on a bigger screen, I could figure it out. But if you put it on a bigger screen, the low resolution is even worse. And so, I mean, it's shocking to me that it would even be allowed, that the low resolution would even be allowed as a means of implicating Kyle, because they used that video to say that Kyle the prosecution used the video to implicate Kyle, and to say that, there wasn't a shadow of a doubt about whether he was the perpetrator, and he went on the attack. And And so the video that we have now, it's still hard to tell if you don't know who's who and where they are. But at least you can see that it's people and not amoeba or paramecium, right? Let me just show you this one screenshot that that they got from the high resolution video. Again, it's not super clear, but at least you can see. So at one point in the video, you see the circles? You can screenshot that if you want. Okay. I'll leave it up there for a second. Sorry about the glare. Okay. Hopefully that's time enough to screenshot. So at one point in the video, you can see Kyle is being chased, and there's Rosenbaum and then another person are chasing him. The other one's a journalist who I was trying to get the story, put himself in danger in chasing somebody who had a gun. So that was kind of on him. And so in this video, you can see Kyle is running. He turns around and points the gun to try to deter Rosenbaum and the other pursuer. And they don't stop. They continue to pursue. And so Kyle runs. And then in the next instance, when he actually goes to shoot, he's on the ground. And, it's extremely important that the public understand this, that Kyle turned around and asked, or, said, back off, stop chasing me, whatever it was that he said, pointed the gun. He was being pursued. It's obvious that he was being pursued, that they continued to pursue him. Now, to Kyle's credit, it's very likely that he had no idea that the other person was a journalist. How would he know that? And so there is argument. I was looking at Legal Insurrection on Twitter. They're arguing the case that not only should this video actually result in a mistrial, the presence of this evidence, a mistrial with prejudice, which means they couldn't try the case again, but also that any charges that this is exculpatory, and so that he should not be charged with the crime against Rosenbaum, because I think the crime for that one is homicide. And then that the charges for endangering the journalist, who he didn't know was a journalist, should be dropped altogether. That is, if the case is even allowed to continue. So this is really significant. And there's another piece of information that has come out, and that has to do with a man who was kicking Kyle. And it turns out that they do have the identity of this man, and apparently it's been known for quite some time, and it was withheld. What I find the most fascinating about all of this, though, aside from the fact that the media has invented a narrative that just doesn't exist and that people actually believe it, is that, this video is FBI footage. So that means that while Kenosha was burning, and while people were looting and burning and destroying a city, the FBI was literally sitting there with a drone, filming it and watching. And that when Kyle Rittenhouse was charged and held until he could come up with bail, that in the midst of all of that, the FBI didn't come forward. Now, we shouldn't be surprised, because we know the same thing happened with the Hunter Biden laptop, that they had information that could have changed the entire narrative leading up into the 2020 election, and they sat on it. They had sat on it for almost a year, or maybe even a year. I think over a year. And and here we are with this in the same situation. They have information, exculpatory information that could exonerate and clear the name of this boy who has been vilified and villainized by the corrupt media, and they didn't do anything about it. I mean, and let's just not even. I mean, the fact that the police weren't doing their jobs. I know that I'm preaching to the choir here, but the fact that the police weren't doing their jobs, that the entire that the entire city was left to be looted and burned by criminals. That's the reason that Kyle Rittenhouse was there in the first place. Now, was it a good decision for him to go? No. I mean, he was a 17-year-old kid who was trying to take back and protect the city where his family lived. Okay? And the fact that, the prosecutor's saying he crossed state lines, et cetera, like his dad lived there, his grandma lived there, he stayed with his best friend. I think he even had a job in Kenosha. And so, we're looking at all this, and the reason that he is in this situation in the first place is because the people in charge didn't do their jobs. I mean, that's just the bottom line. That's just hands down the truth. That the um, mayor, law enforcement, everybody, all the adults that were supposed to be in charge in Kenosha turned over the city to criminals. And now you have this corrupt prosecutor standing in front of a judge trying to turn these criminals into heroes. Hold on just a second, guys. Hold on a second. My dad's here. Um, Hold on. Hey. Hold on, guys. Are you going to come over here? We interrupt this program for a little bit of talk.
In the middle or the back?
Yeah, down on the corner, there's a lot of dirt under that plastic. Okay?
I don't want to put it under the plastic.
Okay.
I'll put it in
Well,
the back.
On that side is all of the irises.
And the lower part?
Yeah, put it on the lower part. Don't put it up where the peonies and the irises are.
Not on the upper part.
Right.
Put it on the lower part.
Over by Frank's house.
Or the fence. Towards the fence.
Yeah, you can try that. Yeah.
That side. Okay.
Okay. Okay. We're back. A little bit of life interrupting. Okay. He's feeling better. He took a walk all the way around the block yesterday. It's about 70 degrees, so he's outside. Good. And now Barley's going to start crying because my dad just went out the door and left him behind. So wait for it. 3, 2, 1. We might get some Barley tears. Where was I? What was I talking about? How nice that you can reason with your father. My dad is too stubborn for us to interact like that. I've actually learned I've learned a lot. I mean, I've definitely learned a lot about how to talk to him. I'll give you an example. Okay. So the doctor told him he wanted him to start walking and moving around more to strengthen his lungs and heart since he had COVID. And, the doctor told him to do that. And so I've been encouraging him every day to do something, go sweep off the porch, go to the mailbox, walk up the road. We have a little book box on the corner. And so he's a little bit stubborn about it, right? And so I'll say things like, hey, do you want to go to the book box and see if there's any books? Because he likes to read. And so a couple times I've suggested, hey, do you want to walk around the block? No. And so I just leave it. I don't even push it, right? I just say, okay, well, the doctor's going to want to know what you've been doing. So, when you're ready and you feel like it, we can walk around the block. And the other thing about when we walk around the block is that there's a dog around the corner that he likes. It's a border collie and it runs up and down and he talks to it. So the day before yesterday, we saw the owner of the border collie driving past us, and I said, "Hey, that's the people that own the dog that you like." And he goes, "Oh yeah." I said, "I bet your dog misses you." That's all I said. And then yesterday we went to take a walk, and first of all, he didn't want to take a walk, and I said, "Well," he said, "it's too cold." I said, "If you put on some socks and a jacket, I think you'll be fine." Anyway, so he decided he wanted to go for a walk, and we went to walk up the street, and went to walk up the street, and we were about a quarter of a way up to the book box, and he said, we're going to go around the block today." So it had to be his decision. And so he went all the way around the block. It's about a half a mile, and he saw the dog. So now he's been busy today. He's been up, he's been doing stuff on the porch. Now he's dealing with the compost. That's what he was talking about. And so this is almost 5 weeks post COVID diagnosis. So he's doing great. So that's our little dad break. And I think God's given me wisdom on how to communicate with him, because there's a lot of times when I'll just say something and he'll just look at me and say no. So I have to sort of, it's like a little bit of a dance, but he is doing a lot better, and his appetite's back. You wouldn't know that he had COVID, so that's good. Now, and I want to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but yeah, dementia is a problem, that's for sure. Tiny. I have my dad on a couple of supplements that have actually really helped his brain function, and actually physically. He has more energy since he's been on them. You can write to me if you want to find out about that. It's info@marygracemedia.com. All right. So let me go back to the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. I just want to wrap that up. The issue, it's a tragic situation that should never have happened. He never should have been there. And here's the other thing, the people that are calling this like a white supremacy issue, or the people that are saying, the people that are using the race card, it's not. The guys that were after him were all white. I mean, you know that. But the other thing is, there have been many situations where, Black, Hispanic, Middle Eastern shooters have just walked after just egregious, outright crimes, that were documented, like that high school shooter in, what state was it? Where I don't even think he was in custody for 24 hours. So it just, continue to pray about this case. Jack Posobiec was reporting last night that 2 of the jurors couldn't come to a conclusion, because, and that was he was concluding, that that the jurors were afraid, that they were afraid for their lives. Now, sometimes Jack gets a little bit melodramatic, and he reports things as fact that aren't necessarily, that are more opinion. So sometimes you have to take his stuff with a grain of salt, but he has done a good job of covering this case. And so we'll see what happens. I don't know that he would have that inside information about, how the jurors are feeling, but that's just something to consider. It's not out of the realm of possibility at all that that they would be afraid for their lives, that they would be afraid of being doxxed, that they would be afraid of retaliation from the leftist mobs that are out there. And the fact that they're allowing these mobs to swarm the courthouse and to make these threats is just ridiculous. Um, and there's so many things wrong with what's happening. And the other thing too, I would say is, I know that his defense is could be better. Um, they've come under fire, and one of the things that I've seen people say about this, I've seen commentary about how the defense and no and the judge are both really not good with tech. And in my opinion, this is one of those things that I get really irritated when people tell me, people my age or even younger, it doesn't, whatever age, when people use the excuse, I'm not good with computers, I'm not technical, I don't do technology, whatever, as an excuse to not to do something well. Because it's like our life. That's kind of like saying, I don't drive a car, and so I can't actually function. And here's the thing. So there are people who don't drive. However, they don't just stay in one place. They get a taxi, they take an Uber, whatever. I mean, they still manage to go places. The people who use the excuse of I'm not good with technology as an excuse not to do something, to me is it's just a major cop out, because there are people that you can find who are called who you can get people to do it for you. And this is something that we've learned from President Trump. I mean, he's not an expert in everything, but he finds the people who are really good at something. And so my thinking is, if you're the defense on a massive trial that, where a young man's life is at stake, and you are not good with technology, you need to do something about that. You don't just sit there and say we're not good with technology. That's just a lame excuse for not going the extra mile and not giving 100% effort on a trial and for a client that could end up in prison because of your ineptitude and your unwillingness to take measures to correct that and to fill in the gaps that you can't function in. And so, I get that it's hard. I get that it's challenging, but this is the 21st century. And honestly, pretty much everything that you need to know, even how to work your computer, you can go on YouTube. There's a video for it somewhere. Literally, like if you got a new MacBook and you don't know how to use it, they have a gazillion tutorials. There's tutorials all over the internet. And so the excuse of not doing it because it's not your thing, that's just crazy. And there's plenty of things in my life. Like there's certain things with the the technology. I mean, I'm pretty good at it, but there's certain roadblocks that I run into, like even mental blocks, and so there's things that I procrastinate on. But even I, at some point, have to get to the point where I say, okay, I need help with this. And then when you do that, then you can move on. So, whether it's pride or laziness or I don't know what it is, but, in the case of these defenders, it actually could cost a young man his life. And he could be put away for life because they were too stupid, too lazy to figure out, the situation with the video or other technology. That's inexcusable. It's egregious. And I just want to challenge people. If you're one of those people that, you're using that as an excuse not to move forward, not to get something done, not to function fully in life, maybe rethink that position, because you have all of the tools available at your disposal. It's just a question of finding them. Okay? So that I didn't really intend to say that, but I think somebody needed to hear it. Let me read the comments here for a minute, and then I'm going to go to the next thing. Okay. There's Vicky. Hi, Vicky. I saw your comment from the other day. Learned a lot about life from the brief 11 years I had with my father. I'm so surprised that I'm 22 years older now than when he died. But he's always older and wiser in my mind's eye. Okay, Vicky says, my guess is the jurors are trying to do justice and maybe find a smaller, lesser included offense that would satisfy the masses. Maybe, maybe. Catherine, I would turn off Newsmax if I were you. I've been telling you guys for quite a while that Newsmax is not who you think they are. And yeah, I would just be aware of that. Yeah. Mary on YouTube says, anything important to me, I find a way. I hate tech, but I keep plodding ahead. I mean, guys, listen, you know, I mean, you know, I was in college when computers first came out, and you know, even during college, I typed my who remembers typing your papers on a typewriter and having to get out and having to use whiteout or having to retype the page if something went wrong, if you had a big mistake or if you have to make major changes, and then if you had to edit something and retype the page, then you might actually have to retype the whole paper because all the formatting was off and there was too much spacing because you took a paragraph out. I mean, it was crazy. You had to do all that. It's so easy now. But the other thing is, you know, I decided that I wanted to learn digital marketing and you know, digital ads and things like that. And I didn't do that until I was in my 40s. And you know, I was never a computer expert. I didn't, you know, I didn't grow up using computers. And so, I mean, look at me now. And here's the thing. Like I could do it. Why can't you? Why can't you learn how to do something different? And you know, I think it's just a question of will. I will say, I want to thank my mother, my late mother, for insisting that I take typing class. I was in the class with all of the FBLA girls, and it was kind of weird, right? FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, and my teacher, I sat in the back because I didn't want to be there, and you know, all of the girls that were around me, they were really good. Like they had ambition. They wanted to be, you know, in admin and things like that, things that I never saw myself doing. And, you know, they, like a lot of them, like they really wanted to be there. And I was there because my mom made me do it. It was one of the few things that she actually managed to actually make me do because I was pretty stubborn. And I remember being there and the teacher, the thing that I remember most, aside from the fact of actually learning how to type, which I'm grateful for to this day, is that she pronounced it typewriter. Typewriter. Students, turn on your typewriters every day. That's how she said it. And she had a little bit of a lisp. Students, turn on your typewriters. So that was entertaining. And I would say that every single time I'm turning on my typewriter. Um, and so that was my experience. Oh, now somebody's talking about encyclopedias. Yeah, exactly. When I was bored, I just read the encyclopedia. That's all there was. If it was raining. If it wasn't raining, I was outside. But if it was raining and I had to stay inside, it was the encyclopedia. That was it. So let me just get back to my topic here. I'm enjoying reading your comments today. Oh, while we're on the topic, while we're on the comedy slant, before I get back to my serious topics, I have something that I want to ask you guys about. So here's something that's happened in our home frequently. And I've been thinking about this because every time I go to put away the plastics, let me back up. So at some point in my life, I came to the realization that I wanted a certain kind of Tupperware, plastic, whatever. Yes, I use plastic. I make sure it's not the BPA kind. I have some glass storage dishes, but I still use plastic. So there you go. True confession. But the whole plastic situation, is kind of crazy because, you know, I live with somebody who doesn't throw anything away. And in spite of that, I managed to go through the cabinet last year and purge just about every single one of those single use uh, Rubbermaid containers. I'll show you what I mean. I managed to purge them. Do you remember these? So these, the ones that lunch meats come in, those, right. You're supposed to use them once or twice, send people home with leftovers. So I managed to get these out and I got a much better set of containers. And so here's my question, and I want to know if this happens to anybody else. So I replaced it all with, like lockable lids, stackable, like a really good set. I wish I had one here to show you because I really like them. And I replaced it all. I didn't. There were none of these in the cabinet, none. And so, and in spite of that, every time I go into the cabinet to get one, to get I call them Tupperware, to get a Tupperware, or to put them away, I find these that like they end up in the cabinet. How does that happen? Are they breeding? Are they reproducing? How do they not? How are they back? How is it that they came back? That's my question. That's what I want to know. Does that happen to the rest of you? It's like the opposite of the whole sock situation in the dryer. You know, the dryer eats your socks. Our Tupperware cabinet reproduces these disposable Tupperwares. How? I just want to know how that happens. How? And does that happen to anybody else? Does that happen to anybody else? I just want to know. And while I'm waiting for your answer on that, I will tell you one pro tip that I figured out years ago. You know how you open the Tupperware drawer or the Tupperware cabinet, and you can never find a matching lid. Like people have their lids in one section and their Tupperware, all the containers in another section. So I figured out years ago, this is one of the things that served me really well in life, is that I always put away the container with the lid. Always with its lid. Try that. You might think you don't have space for it, but if you purge your unnecessary containers, yeah, this is the answer, Lisa. The answer is you store it with the lid. It works. And people think they don't have space. But honestly, if you get rid of all the strays and the mongrels in your cabinet that really that have no business being there, first of all, go through and find the ones that do not have a lid and the lids that do not have a container. Get rid of all those. Then match everything with its lid. Always put them away with the lids. It will save you so much time and aggravation. You're going to thank me. Do this and you will thank me. It's life-changing. However, I still want to know the mystery of why these keep turning up in our house because I got rid of them all. Now I'm going to use these for painting and other projects. All right. So, okay. Yeah, the lid situation will never deter you again if you take my suggestion. I'm just telling you. Yeah, I just store them with the lid. I tried where you have the lid near it or whatever. Just put the lid on it and put it in the cabinet. That's the answer. And the thing is, like, Tupperware isn't heavy. And you really don't need that much space for it. People have way more Tupperware than they actually need. Oh, Idaho Garden Girl, thank you for weighing in on this. I use those disposable plastic containers to start seeds in or under a container to catch drips where I've started seeds. So, okay, that's a great way to, that's a great use for those. Yeah. I have saved some. Like I have one that I'm using to collect old batteries so that I can take them and recycle them, that kind of thing. Anyway, so that's just a thing I've been wanting to talk to you guys about. If anybody has any ideas of how these containers proliferate in our cabinets, I would like to know. All right, let me move on to the next topic. And so we're going to shift gears here for just a little bit. Something happened earlier today on Twitter. I have my backup account on Twitter, which is Real Mary Grace one, the number one, and you can follow me there. And I was responding to a tweet, and I was responding to a tweet. Somebody said, basically, I'm over, just over COVID, right? I'm done. And this is what I said. I said, so my friend Todd said, I see people go through their lives every day in fear of COVID, and I just feel sorry for them. They are severely consumed. They are seemingly consumed by fear. This is not living. Would you agree? And so I responded, and I said, my dad just recovered from COVID. He's 84 and he doesn't watch the propaganda media. So he didn't know he was supposed to be terrified of dying by COVID. So he chose living instead. That was what I said. And so somebody responded. This is what they said. They said, believing loss of life to any illness is a choice shows lack of wisdom and compassion. And the person's handle is Patriot Jesus 2A. So I'm just going to go with the assumption that they're a Christian. Or maybe their name is Jesus and they're not a Christian. I don't know. But if they are a Christian, let's just assume they're a Christian. They go identify as a Christian. Many strong and beautiful people across the political spectrum have died of COVID. I'm certain if they could have chose to continue to live with loved ones, they would have. Embarrassing take. So I guess this person is embarrassed by what I said. But it got me thinking. It could be a bot, but I don't know. Either way, I want to respond to it because here is what I have observed. I think most of you have noticed over the past almost 2 years that society has been gripped with fear about COVID because of the propaganda, largely because of the propaganda. I mean, we're looking at a virus that has a 99 point whatever percent recovery rate, even in high risk people. I think in my dad's category, it is like 94%. It's still, it's a very high survivability. And in spite of that, we have people that are running out now to get their second and third booster. And now they're talking about a fourth booster. And now they're talking about a daily pill, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are people in my town who are still obsessed with masks. And so there is an overall theme of fear and death. And we know who the father of lies is. We know who comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And we know that those of us who have gotten this far, largely those of us who have refused the shot, who have refused to comply with the insanity, a lot of it has just been based on belief, on our belief system and our understanding of what's really going on. And so I was thinking about this because don't lose your sanity, Patricia. It's not worth it. All right. So I was just thinking about the scripture in Deuteronomy 19, where the Lord says, I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. So choose life in order that you may live, you and your descendants, by loving the Lord your God, by obeying his voice, and by holding fast to him. For this is your life and the length of your days, that you may live in the land which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give them. So it's, God tells the people, his children, I have set before you life and death. Choose life. He doesn't even give them a chance to pick the wrong answer. He tells them what to choose. He tells you what to choose. Choose life. And there are documented cases on all belief spectrums of what happens to people when they get a diagnosis or when they get in an accident and they're either in a near death experience or they're given a diagnosis, a terminal diagnosis. There is so much documentation around people's beliefs and how it influences whether they live or die. I mean, it's pretty easy to look that stuff up and to find the documentation around that. It's been documented in hospitals. People who are nurses and doctors who work with critically ill patients will tell you that they have observed, when a patient believes that they are going to live and they're supported by family and they have family around them and they have a positive mental outlook and especially if they have a spiritual grounding and faith, they live. They are able to choose life. And those people who accept the diagnosis, the prognosis of death, those are the people that oftentimes don't make it. And I've seen. I feel like on the one hand, none of us knows the day or the hour that we're going to go to be with Jesus if you're a believer, or that you're just going to die if you're not. None of us knows the day or hour. However, I do know that people's beliefs and their choices can determine, to some extent, the length of your days. And so I'll give you an example. When with COVID, one of the things that I observed with my dad was that he didn't know, because he wasn't aware of the propaganda and he wasn't gripped by fear. And so when he found out that he had COVID, his response was, literally, he just went, he didn't, there was no grid for fear. There was at no point was I aware of him having the thought or conversation that this could kill me. This is a death sentence. Everybody who gets COVID dies. At no point, I believe there was no point at which he ever thought that. And if he did, he never vocalized it. None of his actions never indicated that he felt that way. And I believe, based on everything that I know about our belief systems, about our understandings, is that was one of the things that helped him recover so quickly. I mean, you just heard him talking to me, and he was out working in the yard. He's been busy all day long. There's nothing to indicate that he had COVID. Nothing in his actions right now. And so, I've also seen. I've heard and read stories of people who, they were supposed to die because the doctor said, this is the prognosis, you're going to die. And they said, I'm going to live. And in some cases, they're still alive. In some cases, their life was, they got 5 more years than they were supposed to. They were told they were going to die in 6 months, and then they chose life and they decided they weren't going to die. And so the mindset is critical and it's key. And and then the interesting thing is that my tweet, I said he chose living. He chose living. And what I meant by that was, we all have a choice every single day. Choose life or death. Choose life or death. Choose life that you may live. And the way that people are living is right now they're living in fear. And I would argue that that's not living at all. And that was part of my meaning in the in my response on Twitter, was that the way that people are they're not living, they're just surviving. And because of that, they're dying. Because when they get a diagnosis of something that really shouldn't kill them, they believe that it's going to kill them. And so they die, they succumb. And the truth is, they didn't. I mean, a lot of these people, because they have chosen, here's where choice comes into play as well. They've chosen to believe and get their information from the lying mainstream media. And because of, I mean, we know, just having watched the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, that the media just outright lies. Who is the father of lies? The devil. The devil is the father of lies. Satan is the father of lies. And so the pattern that we're seeing is that the choices that people make, what you listen to, where you get your information, what you choose to do with that information, that has a serious impact on outcomes. I meet people every single day who still have no idea that there is treatment available for COVID, and that you don't have to die if you get COVID, and that you don't have to end up in the emergency room, which basically is a death sentence. And that is a big problem. But here's the thing. These people are making choices. They're making a choice to get their information from a source that is lying to them. And I'm going to take it a step further, and I'm just going to propose that even Christians who are choosing to get their information from mainstream media and not to test it, not to go outside of that to find other sources, anybody who is functioning and making a large portion of their decisions based on what the lying media says is in alignment with the father of lies, Satan. So it's possible to call yourself a Christian and to make decisions based on the lies of the devil. People get deceived all the time. I get that. But to ingest a steady diet of lies, that's a choice that people make. And so part of our growth as Christians, part of the intellectual honesty that's expected of us by God, is that we make a decision to walk away from consuming things that harm us and harm other people. Because as a Christian, if you are a parent or a caregiver, you're responsible for other people's health. If you're making all of your decisions based on the lies of the media, then you're actually inflicting harm not only on yourself, but your whole family. Because you're making decisions, you're allowing the devil to sway your decisions. I know that probably isn't something that people want to hear, but I would seriously challenge you. If you've been duped, if you've been, making all of your decisions based on mainstream media to this point, you're being lied to. And if at this point you're still listening to those sources and going to those sources, and you're not looking for other sources of information, then you're complicit in fostering and furthering the lies that are being pushed. Hi, Jim, on YouTube. So that is something that I just wanted to challenge people in, and I wanted to read something that somebody posted on, and one of the Anons posted this. Okay, so it says, and I want to give a little disclaimer. I want to give a disclaimer before I say this, because it talks about the people that I want to talk about this because it says, it starts by saying, if you're still unvaxxed, right? I understand that there are people who got the shot. This is addressed to the people that are waking up. There's a lot of people that aren't going to get the booster because they realize what's going on. There are people who took the shot because they thought that it was the right thing to do. So I'm not judging people who took the shot. I know people who've done it. But just get the overall meaning behind this, what I'm reading you. Okay. It says, reminder, if you are still unvaxxed, you survived the biggest psyop in human history. They elaborated an evil plan for decades. Do you realize how much time, resources, and effort they put into this? They studied all the possible ways to enslave your mind and make you take it. They tried to demoralize you by corrupting society from every possible corner. They tried to vilify and desensitize your mind with porn. They tried to lure you with money, gifts, and rewards. They tried to confuse you and make you doubt your own reality and identity. They tried to make you walk on your own. They tried to make you walk out on your own principles, values, and ethics. They even turned your close ones against you. Almost everyone fell for it. Almost all of them fell for it, but not you. You realized just how much BS you went through and overcame. You never, ever gave in. You're still unvaxxed. You're still a pureblood. Their tricks didn't work on you. So to all the unvaxxed, I say cheers. So that's one take. But I would say take it a step further from the vaccine, from the shot. Um, that um, that that people stood strong. That those of you who have stood and resisted in whatever way that has been for you, I would say that it's really important to understand that you saw through it. And the challenge is, that not only you see through it, but that you're charged with the task of helping others do that as well. Okay? So let me see. Just looking at your comments here. So, this is more and more people are waking up, but it is a challenge. And I'm going to read another quote now from Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who wrote the Gulag Archipelago. I remember reading that book. I think I was in 8th or 9th grade. And I remember thinking, I'm not really sure what relevance this is going to have on my life. And here we are today. And here's a quote from Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who wrote the Gulag Archipelago. In keeping silent about evil, burying it so deep within us that no sign of it appears on the surface, we are implanting it and it will rise up 1,000-fold in the future. Remember what I was talking about the other day about generational thinking? When we neither punish nor reproach evildoers, we are not simply protecting their trivial old age. We are thereby ripping the foundations of justice from beneath new generations. That's a really profound thought, isn't it? And it's just, that's where we are. And this is why I won't let go of this topic. This is why I will continue to, I will always take a stand for freedom. I will always push you to take a stand and not back down on preserving our freedoms. Our freedoms are given to us by God. And anytime we willingly give them away, we have to fight to give them back, because the people that we give up our freedoms to will never, ever, ever return them. And that's something that I said in the very beginning when our governor was starting to impose mandates. I knew that we were going down a very, very slippery slope. And I think that more people are becoming aware of that now. I pray that more and more people wake up to this, because the decisions that people are making, whether it's to walk in fear, whether it's to walk in freedom, to choose life, whatever decisions you're making, those decisions have impacts on generations. It's not just about you. And part of the problem of what we're running into is that so many people throughout this process have made decisions based on what made them comfortable. And quite frankly, a lot of people are just lazy. And, they decided, yay, I'm going to stay home and watch Netflix for the next year. And I am not going to, I'm not going to be subject, I'm not going to have to think. I'm not going to have to function. I'll just collect a check. And that is where they want you. They want you to be in that place of mental and intellectual laziness, spiritual laziness, where you're refusing to take responsibility for your own decisions and for the decisions that have an impact on generations to come. It's a very dangerous place to be. And so I encourage all of you to take a stand, whatever it is, whether it's little. Everybody has a different threshold of what's comfortable for them, and so get out of that. Take the steps that you need to get out of that comfort level and get out of your comfort zone to where you are able to have an impact. So just something to think about. Yeah. And on that note, somebody made a comment about people losing their ability to make a living. I will tell you that the OSHA ruling has been the OSHA ruling on the vax mandate for the companies, not the OSHA ruling, but the enforcement. It was the Fifth Circuit Court put a stop to it, and OSHA announced today that they were going to honor that. That's good news because this regime has pretty much been just lawless on all fronts. And so it's shocking to me that OSHA is going to honor it. But it's important that if you have an employer who is pushing the vax, that you take that documentation and show them, take it to your HR and say, look, this is it's the courts have ruled that OSHA cannot mandate this. Therefore, if you are still enforcing this, out of the fear of what OSHA is going to do to your company, to this company, you're in the wrong, and you are flat out wrong for pushing this on your employees. It's wrong no matter what. But if they are, if they're standing on the excuse of OSHA, I would encourage you to get this information and take it to them right away. So that is important. And the companies that disregard this, the companies that go against the court rulings, will be subject to lawsuits. That's something that people might want to let their employers know as well, that the courts have decided against OSHA enforcement of this unlawful, unconstitutional mandate. It's not a law. It's never been signed into law. And we know that the Brandon regime has been using regulatory agencies and big tech to enforce their ghoulish behavior because they know that what they're doing is unlawful. So they put regulatory agencies and private industry on the task of enforcing their unlawful, lawless mandates and measures. That's how they do it. That's how they do it. Let me check my notes here and make sure I haven't left anything out. I think that's going to be it for today. So I believe that I put the OSHA information on my Telegram, the documentation about that. Let me just check. Mary Grace Media Official. Yeah, so when you go to Telegram, you just need to, when you search for groups, or if you go to the Telegram URL, it's t.me, and then you just put the / Mary Grace Media Official. You have to be on Telegram. You have to be logged into Telegram with an account before you find it. If you're not on Telegram, then you're not going to find it. It's going to say invalid. So you actually have to set up an account. Just beware of that. Some people don't know that for some reason. Let's see. Yeah, it is on my Telegram official. Vicky, I will try to link that. Yeah. And the crazy thing is The crazy thing is that I'm just trying to find it. The crazy thing is, well, it's not crazy. We know it's true and we know it's important because the mainstream media, like if you try to Google it, you can't find it anywhere. They're completely suppressing the information. Completely, totally, 100% suppressing the information. Um, okay, so before I go, I want to remind you that I will be on tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern with a special guest. We'll be live with Rachel Ham, 3 p.m. Eastern, and it's going to be a great show. And if you are not familiar with Rachel, go to the Rachel Ham Show on YouTube and take a look at her channel. She is a very strong believer. She is a friend of mine, and we have a lot of a lot of good things to talk about. She's running for Secretary of State in California. She's a published author, and she's going to come on the show. So I think it's going to be really good. Set your alarms for 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do the show at that time. Now, listen, I'm doing shows. I'm doing shows with guests, and I haven't done it in a long time. And so I'm having to iron out some of the technical issues. If for some reason I come on late, it's just because of that. So bear with me. I'm going to try to have everything lined up. I'll try to have everything working. But whenever you're working with a guest, whenever you're trying to bring in more than one person, it just adds other layers of complexity. So I appreciate everybody's patience ahead of time. And somebody on YouTube says, I still think we need the Mary Grace clothing line. If you see, I should get, I should have promo codes for my clothes. But that would be awesome. Speaking of promo codes, don't forget that you can get superfoods. It's actually a great thing to buy these days because it's about the only thing that hasn't gone up in price. Our superfoods prices have stayed the same for almost the last 2 years. It's amazing. I went to the store yesterday and steak was 20 some dollars a pound. Couldn't believe it. I bought my dad a pack of hot dogs. Yes, he eats hot dogs. It was almost $6 for ballpark hot dogs. I was like, what? So we're eating more and more superfoods in this house because it's the most affordable thing you can buy. It's amazing. So write to me, info@marygracemedia.com, and check out our superfoods. You can get a 30-day supply. You can save over $100 off of your superfoods order. And it's just amazing nutrition. You can also use it. For prepping and saving it. It's very shelf stable. And then the other thing is, I am going to do an official launch for my CBD. I think I'm going to do it right after Christmas. I mean, right after Thanksgiving. So stay tuned for that. I'll have a special guest on. But if you want any of our CBD, that I have a preferred customer link, so you can buy it and save almost 20% off of retail. I'm absolutely loving this CBD, loving it, love, love, love. And if you want that, write to me, info@marygracemedia.com. I'll send you a link so you can purchase. And I'm happy to report that their shipping is pretty good. If you order, it's based in Nevada. So let's see, the last order I made, I think it took like 4 or 5 business days to get here. So remember, if you order going into a weekend, it's going to take longer. But it's really good stuff. I would definitely consider gifting CBD and or superfoods for Christmas. So that's something to think about. All right. Info@marygracemedia.com. You're following me right here on YouTube and Facebook and CloutHub and Twitter. I am Mary Grace. This is Mary Grace Media. And please, as you come in to watch the replay, leave comments. It definitely helps get the word out. Share into groups. Share anywhere that you're allowed to without getting dinged for spamming. I appreciate everybody for being here today. Thank you to my moderators. Thank you to Delia for taking the notes. I don't think Millie's here today. Somebody just said the Rittenhouse jurors have returned. Okay. So I'll be back tomorrow. Everybody have a great afternoon, and thank you for all your comments and input. Take care, everybody.